Hello, everyone. My name is Briandel Unkrich from the University of Iowa. I'm a member of the Higher Education Advisory Council and a moderator for this session. We're excited to welcome you here. We're going to be learning about solution design from Nina Gomez-Fernandini at the University of Miami. While she's doing her presentation, I'll be monitoring the chat and Q&A, which are just to the right of the screen. So now I'll turn it over to Nina.
Thank you, Brendel. And I know my last name is very long, so you did a good job. I'm proud. And if you hear a little bit of water in the background, that is a fish tank that I have in my office. So just in case you were wondering. So hi, everyone. Super excited to be here. As I think most of you know, I work for the University of Miami as a senior systems administrator. I've been on the Salesforce team for like over 9 years. I kept saying 7 years, but then COVID happened. And so it's actually like 9 years, which is amazing. I was taken in by the platform immediately. Of course, we have an amazing community. We address a lot of things at UM with Salesforce. We have our one-stop case management, university communications, student recruitment, employer engagement, international activity tracking, and of course, COVID-19 response and occupancy management are all things that we use the Salesforce platform for. We have just a quick snapshot, 85,000 cases were managed by the one-stop and the administrative offices, over 14K one-stop visits since they opened right at the beginning of the pandemic. So very proud of those teams. Our agenda for today. So first, I'll give you a little bit of background of where we came from, our new solution design goals, where do we start implementing those goals, and how to establish a review board. So our background and goals first, where we came from. So we came from kind of an older waterfall model, sometimes with either too many or too few people involved in design. And of course, this can lead to a lot of issues. There was a lot of confusion at the end of projects regarding what was actually built. It made it really difficult to adjust and implement best development practices along the way. And we tended to end projects with a lot of tech debt and open items that either had to be resolved, which could impact our project timeline, or reworked, which can also impact a project timeline. Our team was also growing, so there was urgency to establish a better process for solution design, development, and knowledge transfer. We work in an agile methodology, so in our agile frame of mind, we were able to identify these issues over time via sprint and project retrospectives. We noticed that the same issues kept being reported through our retros. I couldn't give my feedback on the solution until it was too late and already in production. We discovered a high volume of bugs and had to do rework. The testing team can attest to this. Many times that's happened to us. Sometimes feedback of there's a better or more scalable way to build something. Or, as I mentioned previously, we had to extend our timeline to resolve bugs and tech debt. So once we identified those issues, we kind of came up with 3 new solution design goals that we wanted to kind of drive towards. One was creating a solution design outline, or POC, proof of concept, for each piece of the puzzle that was identified during discovery. We also wanted to implement a solution design review board that will provide approval and feedback of the design, and establish a solution design meeting cadence before and in parallel to development as part of our project timeline. Again, we use Agile, so we didn't want to fall into the trap of becoming waterfall again. So we do solution design before and during development. Now, this is not meant to serve as a technical code review. If you came to my coworker Tommy's session that was right before this one, he talked in depth about code reviews. This is not that, it's more big picture architecture. So where do we start in achieving these new goals? First, you want to categorize what you're developing. When you have a really big project, it's kind of hard to know where to start. And especially when you're just trying to kind of imagine your design, it's even harder to know where to start. So I recommend breaking things up into 3 buckets: the easy stuff, the not so easy stuff, and the hard stuff. The easy stuff are things that are usually straightforward. They don't require a lot of feedback. I need X number of fields, maybe a new page layout, a new object. Sometimes it can be up for debate, but usually it's a pretty clear choice. Or adding like a new sharing rule to an existing sharing model. Those are all things that you can kind of catalog, and they're pretty straightforward for an admin. The not so easy stuff are things that do require feedback, but you have ideas on how to start. So for example, the choice between a profile or a permission set, a classic admin conundrum. The need to either create a new sharing model or alter an existing model that maybe just isn't scalable anymore. Or consolidating automations is another good example. I want to move all my process builders to flows, workflow rules to process builders. That's coming for all of us. So you kind of have ideas on where to start, but it's always good to get feedback. And then last but not least is the hard stuff that you don't even know where to start sometimes. If you've never set up knowledge for the first time, if you've never set up a community for the first time, you might need a little bit more help. Additionally, setting up a brand new integration can be really daunting. So that tends to be the harder stuff. So pro tips for how to design without building it all. So once you have everything categorized and you're trying to figure out, what do I need to POC? Where do I go? How do I do this? You want to follow these guidelines. You do want to start in the lowest environment that you can. For example, a developer pro sandbox. You also want to document your essential components as you build that proof of concept. You have no idea how many times I've built something and then I have to go back and figure out what did I actually build to get that to work. So document as you go. You want to also build enough to prove a theory and build out multiple options if there's more than one way to solve for something. Specifically, with sharing models and things of that nature, there's more than one road that leads to Rome. So build a few out, see what makes sense for your use case. What you don't want to do is worry about tech debt or naming conventions when you're building a proof of concept. Once you get into your for real QA testing environment, that's when you want to kind of put those guardrails up. But when you're POCing, don't worry about that. Don't build everything out. Build roughly 20%. Like I said before, build enough to prove a theory, not every single field or record that you're going to need in production. And don't lose sight of your business requirements. These are your guideposts. This is your goal, the dream. So don't lose sight of them. Now, when you're getting ready to present your solution design to your board, we'll talk about who's on the board in just a little bit. The first thing you want to do is set the stage. Present an overview of the project and your purpose, kind of give everyone that context. Then you want to review each piece of the puzzle and the business requirements. Again, context, really understanding what the use case is from the end user experience. Also, you want to be prepared to demo and to be given follow-up research items from your board. You may come to a board session and you think you have all the answers, and they might hit you with some stuff that you need to go back and research. So always be ready for that. If we go back to our buckets, the easy stuff, the not so easy stuff, and the hard stuff, when it comes to what are you going to present, it's a little bit different. For the easy stuff, you might not have to demo or POC. You more than likely didn't build out everything, and you shouldn't have, in your developer pro sandbox. So just a quick summary slide of what you plan to build usually does the trick. So for example, there's an existing object, we want to add X number of fields to it, and we need a new page layout. That can easily be discussed on a slide. The not so easy stuff is the stuff that you probably want to demo or have a proof of concept for one or multiple options. So you want to be ready with the pros and cons of each option and provide a recommendation. This helps kind of drive the conversation with your board and kind of have it be an open back and forth. For the hard stuff, it's very similar to the not so easy stuff. But for the hard stuff, if you really don't know where to start, you can request that support and help in identifying next steps from your board. Here's a quick example of a solution design slide that we used during our one-stop and case management implementation. So roles and sharing, kind of the baseline of everything else, right? So our use case was 7 new business units were going to be onboarded to use case management. They're going to kind of sit parallel to Kane Central, our one-stop shop. The current state was that Kane Central had individual roles and read-write access based on record type to cases. Our new requirements were that case visibility should be without restriction amongst all of these groups. but edit access should be restricted to the team who owns that case. And we wanted to keep the existing Kane Central model intact. So some of the questions that I had for my review board were, how many roles should we need, are needed to accomplish those sharing requirements? And where are we going to put those roles? So, I built this out and demoed it for them, but this is kind of an example of how you could present this to your board. So who's on that review board? How do you establish a review board? Your fellow team members, admins and developers, first and foremost. Everyone on your team should be part of your review board if they're not the ones directly building a solution. Should remember to identify who's that final approver on the team, who is that senior that's going to say, yes, this is the path we're going to take. Include implementation partners if you have them. Of course, they're a wealth of knowledge. They have immense experience, and they can be really helpful in those types of sessions. If you have a small team, if you're looking at me like, Nina, it's just me and one other admin, don't worry. Trusted members of the community are always willing and able to participate. Reach out. I'm sure that you will find people that would be more than willing to sanity check a solution design. And last, high-level SMEs or subject matter experts that have technical knowledge or background. Sometimes they can be really helpful to inform solutions. So if it makes sense to bring them in, by all means. The ones you don't want to invite are end or business users. They really don't need to come into the operating room mid-op. So keep them for the end for UAT and final testing and training. So in summary, when you're kind of getting started, you want to categorize what you're developing first. Again, the easy stuff, the not so easy, and then the hard. Build out light proof of concepts and design that prove theories, not completed solutions. Establish a review board and solution design meeting cadence, and make this process your own. Thank you so much. And now I will open it up to your questions.
Thank you very much, Nina. We don't have any questions. Oh, actually, wow, one popped in right away. All right, so KZ has a question. SMEs were on the review board, but not end users. Are they sometimes the same though?
KZ, yes, you're not wrong. When we talk about SMEs, think about like the people that are going to become your super users, right? Like they are end users, but they're not the end user that is just logging in and clicking and doing their job and leaving. They're the ones that are going to engage with you, that they notice those things about the system, the people that sometimes can become accidental admins very quickly. Those super users, those kinds of subject matter experts are the ones that I'm talking about, a little bit more technical background, not just your regular old business user. Yeah, that was a great question, KZ. Okay, I'm gonna go back to the chat a little bit. Thank you, Charlie. Thank you guys for coming. I know I talk really fast. If there's anything that we can go back to, I'm happy to do it.
No, you did great. Another question came in too. A couple more coming in. So how much time does the team expect to allocate to adding this design review process? So what would this look like for the time component?
Great question. So like I said, we do agile, right? So usually we do it right after discovery and before the first development sprint. What we did was we added another sprint cycle in between discovery and development just to start solution design on the first like 2 sprints worth of development work. That way you go into those development sprints with your design already vetted, you're ready to start. And then, like I said, while you're developing, we had additional solution design meetings for the stories that were coming in the future sprints. And is a really good mechanism for like, if we did start to build something that we had POC'd, but then when you're building it out for real, you're like, oh man, we didn't think about this. We went right back to the review board and we let them know, hey, I know we said we were going to build it this way, but actually we had to build it this other way. So it also works as a build review.
Questions are flowing in now. So we have another one from KZ, and hopefully I'm interpreting this correctly, KZ, but what is your time cycle or timeline for your agile sessions?
So, and I think Michelle also asked a similar question. Our sprint cycle is 2 weeks. We started with 3 because we were a little bit squirrely and didn't feel like 2 weeks was enough, but 3 ended up being too long to manage as well. So we made the choice to go to 2 weeks and just kind of muscle through it at the beginning. And honestly, it really paid off. 2 weeks, now that the team has gotten used to it, it really is a very easily plannable, chunk of time, barring all the things that happen, that sidetrack you. But overall, it's easy to track.
Of course. And how many people are on that team?
We have, I'm trying to think. We have 2. Yeah, Vicky. Vicky's questions on Vicky's question come in. We have 2 developers. We have 2 system admins, 3 seniors. So we're already up to 7 people. And then a dedicated BA. And then, of course, Florence, our fearless director. So we're about 9 or 10 people.
Great. Do you want to tackle Vicky's question next? How do you handle disagreements that come up during those reviews?
With love and respect for all of my team members, but we do get very, very passionate sometimes. And, it comes down to having a good POC, having a good demo, and being open to that feedback. Feedback is a gift. And I think our team really exemplifies that. We don't take it personally. We're all trying to come up with the best, most efficient, most scalable solution for the university. And so I think just keeping that context in mind is really critical. And I love learning from my team members. Sometimes they come up with things. I'm like, why didn't I think of that? And that's exactly why we have this kind of process.
Sounds good. There's a few more questions coming in, so we'll get to as many as we can. Many of the stakeholders may not know the technical issues of profiles, permission sets, etc. So how do you recommend finding feedback for those back-end security concerns?
That's a really good question. And those are the ones that, that's that fine line between how much do you really involve your stakeholders with those technical conversations. My biggest recommendation to you, Megan, would be to boil down those business requirements to be like true business requirements. Don't solution in your business requirements. I struggle with that a lot, but it's if you can get there, then when you go to look at it from a technical point of view, it's easier to identify, and you don't need to bring the stakeholders back in if your business requirements are well defined. I hope that made sense.
All right, Jeff has a question as well. How do you avoid overextending or overbuilding perhaps for one customer? So the platform is really shiny, but it's easier to build than me.
That's a doozy. How do we avoid doing that? Well, sometimes we don't. It's definitely something that's been a challenge. I think that's a challenge for all of us. And I think you just have to learn from project to project, hold on to those lessons learned. Again, with the Agile process, we have sprint retrospectives. So we do a lot in there, and we try to look back and learn from those mistakes as we plan for the next one. And, having things like technical code reviews and this and that, really documenting, I think also plays a part, because if you have everything really well documented, then when you go to the next one, reuse your components, reuse your sharing model, reuse automations, and add a new record type if it makes sense for the use case. Don't reinvent the wheel every time.
Let's try to squeeze one more question. We're almost out of time. But could you just provide a little more clarity about the schedule of the sprint cycle and where this comes into play?
Yes. So like I said before, I would do it after a discovery sprint. So usually what we do is we have a planning sprint. So that's just getting everything organized, making sure the business is ready, making sure our resources are ready, all that good stuff. Then we have a sprint for discovery where we meet with the business, make sure we really nail down all of their business requirements. Like I said, we use Agile, so that's user stories and acceptance criteria for us. And then after that, you go, instead of going from discovery straight to development, which is what would be a typical Agile life cycle, we inserted a period of solution design prior to development. So that's kind of where that lands. And again, it can happen throughout development as well, but allocating that little bit of time between discovery and true development to POC and to work in a lower environment and let the architects and the admins get hands deep in the solution is really, really helpful.
Well, thank you very much, Nina. We are out of time. Thanks everyone for attending this session. There's a few more sessions left today, so you can head back to the main stage or use the agenda button to find the next session, and make sure you go visit the networking table and sponsor booths as well. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, guys.